You trusted me with anything, and you signed everything.
Now it's legally binding.
I'm a corporate lawyer specializing in financial compliance. My wife, Rachel, worked as a marketing director at a mid-sized firm. We'd been married 8 years, and I thought she knew me well enough to understand that I don't make empty threats. I'm not the type to throw around ultimatums for dramatic effect. When I say something, I mean it with every fiber of my being. So when I looked at her over our expensive coffee one Tuesday morning and said clearly that if she invited her boss to her birthday party, our marriage was over, I wasn't being jealous or insecure. I was drawing a line in the sand. It was a survival warning, the kind you give someone before they step on a landmine. She laughed. Not a polite chuckle, but a full theatrical laugh, head thrown back like I delivered the punchline to the world's greatest joke. "Relax, David," she said dismissively, already scrolling through her phone. "He's just my mentor." Mentor. She said that word like Kevin Patterson was some enlightened business guru who descended from corporate heaven to bless her career. Meanwhile, I'm thinking about the texts he sends her at midnight saying things like, "Wear the red dress tomorrow, my favorite." But what do I know? I'm just the husband who pays half the mortgage and apparently exists to nod along to whatever story she's telling herself. Here's the thing about Rachel that drove me insane. She genuinely couldn't distinguish between someone respecting her professional abilities and someone who wanted to sleep with her. To her, every compliment was sincere. Every lingering look was appreciation for her innovative marketing strategies. Every late-night text was just Kevin being committed to the team's success. She was either completely oblivious or willfully ignorant, and I'd stopped trying to figure out which. I could see the disaster forming like watching a loading bar fill up on a terrible download. 1 dot, 2 dots, 3 dots, connection complete. Welcome to the end of your marriage. Rachel had this annoying habit of mistaking attention for admiration. She'd sit on our couch telling me about her day, about how Kevin praised her presentation or asked her opinion on a campaign, and she'd glow like she'd been plugged into an electrical outlet. I kept my mouth shut mostly because pointing it out would just earn me another lecture about how I don't understand office dynamics and how networking is crucial in marketing. Sure, sweetheart, network away. Just don't be surprised when your network starts looking like an affair waiting to happen. But here's what Rachel didn't know. What she never bothered to ask about because she never cared about my work beyond surface-level questions. Kevin Patterson wasn't just her boss. Patterson Marketing Group had recently landed on my law firm's radar for some questionable financial practices. Nothing concrete yet, just red flags and whispers. The kind of thing that makes compliance attorneys like me start digging through documents at midnight. And I'd just been assigned to the preliminary review team. Conflict of interest? Absolutely. The kind that could destroy careers if not properly disclosed and managed. The kind that made a wife publicly celebrating her boss look catastrophically bad for everyone involved. While Rachel planned her party that week, ordering metallic balloons and a custom cake shaped like her initials because apparently fondant is sophistication, I was planning something else entirely. I pulled up my laptop, opened a secure browser, and started drafting documentation. Call it paranoid if you want. I call it insurance. I'd spent 8 years watching Rachel navigate her career with the ethical flexibility of a contortionist, bending rules I didn't know existed. She's charming, I'll give her that. She can walk into any room and have everyone eating out of her hand within minutes, laughing at her jokes, agreeing with her ideas. It's a gift that served her professionally and made my life personally complicated. Because when you're that good at performing, at making people believe whatever version of reality you're selling, the lines blur. What's real? What's strategy? What's just Rachel being Rachel? And what's Rachel actively making terrible decisions that'll explode in both our faces? The party itself was exactly what I expected. It looked like a corporate mixer and an Instagram influencer's wedding had a baby with unlimited access to a credit card. Champagne fountains, plural, because apparently one wasn't enough to celebrate turning 33. A live band playing jazzy versions of pop songs. Purple and gold lighting strategically arranged around our backyard. Everything had this glossy, overly polished look, like Rachel had hired someone whose job was making everything appear expensive on social media. This wasn't just a birthday party. This was content. This was her chance to prove to everyone following her carefully curated Instagram that she was living her best life, successful and admired and surrounded by people who definitely weren't just there for the free premium booze. I stood near the bar because if I was going to watch this train wreck, I needed something stronger than the cucumber water the catering staff kept pushing. I observed the guest list with detached interest. Her co-workers dressed like they were attending a charity gala, the neighbors looking uncomfortable and overdressed, the influencer friends who'd shown up with ring lights and phone tripods, already filming everything for their stories. Rachel worked the crowd like a politician on election night, touching arms, throwing her head back in exaggerated laughter, making everyone feel important. She was wearing the red dress. Of course she was wearing the red dress, the one Kevin had texted about. The one that cost more than our monthly utility bill. Her hair was done in those perfectly imperfect waves that take 2 hours in a professional to achieve. She looked stunning. That was never the problem. The problem walked in at 8:15, fashionably late. I saw Kevin before Rachel did, watched him pause at the entrance to our backyard like he was waiting for a spotlight. Kevin Patterson had the kind of confidence that comes from believing the world owes you something. He strutted into the party wearing sunglasses indoors because apparently his eyes were too important for our string lights. He carried a gift bag, one of those oversized designer ones with tissue paper exploding out the top, holding it like it contained the secrets of the universe. His suit probably cost $3,000, tailored perfectly. His hair was slicked back with expensive product. He had that perpetual smirk guys develop when they've spent too long believing their own hype. I watched Rachel's face light up when she spotted him. She excused herself from whatever conversation she was having and practically floated across the yard to greet him. They hugged too long, too familiar, the kind of hug that makes everyone watching feel like they're intruding on something private. He said something in her ear that made her laugh, that real laugh she used to save for me back when we had things to laugh about. Then he handed her the gift bag with a theatrical flourish, and I gripped my whiskey glass tighter. The party continued around me. Conversations happening in that loud way people talk when they've had 2 drinks and think they're more interesting than they are. Rachel's friend Monica came up at one point, already tipsy, saying how lucky Rachel was to have such a supportive husband. I smiled and nodded and wanted to ask if she'd recently suffered a head injury. Then came the moment I'd been dreading. Camille climbed onto a chair like she was running for office, and clinked her champagne glass. The crowd quieted, faces turning toward her. She was glowing, absolutely radiant with attention and champagne. "I want to thank everyone for coming tonight," she began, her voice carrying across the yard with practiced ease. "But there's someone special I need to recognize. Someone who's been an incredible mentor, supporter, and friend." My stomach dropped. I knew exactly where this was going. "Kevin, come up here." She extended her hand toward him like a queen summoning a knight. He moved through the crowd with that insufferable confidence while people clapped politely, probably confused about who he was and why he was getting special recognition. Rachel raised her glass higher, smile bright enough to power a city. "Kevin, thank you for everything you do, for believing in me, for pushing me to be better. I wouldn't be where I am without you." The crowd cheered and raised their glasses, completely oblivious to what had just happened. But I heard it. I felt it. You could have heard my dignity call an Uber and leave entirely. It was the sound of something breaking, not dramatically or loudly, but with quiet finality. I didn't make a scene. That's not my style. What would it accomplish? Screaming at my wife in front of 50 people while Kevin stood there smirking. I had a better plan, one requiring patience rather than emotional outbursts. I smiled, the kind that doesn't reach your eyes, finished my whiskey in one swallow, and walked over to where Rachel was still standing on that chair, still basking in her moment. I leaned in close enough that only she could hear me over the music. "Happy birthday." Then I walked out, not dramatically, not with a door slam or speech, just efficiently, like I was clocking out of a terrible job. I grabbed my keys, walked through our house, past the catering staff, past the coats piled on our bed, and got in my car. The music faded as I pulled out of the driveway, and for the first time in months, I could breathe. Rachel didn't call that night. Not one text asking where I was or if I was okay. Nothing. Complete radio silence. I guess when you're the star of your own movie, the director's husband doesn't really matter. I was background talent, technically in the scene, but replaceable by anyone. I drove around aimlessly, ended up at a 24-hour diner off the highway, the kind that smells like coffee and regret, where waitresses don't ask questions when a guy in a button-down shows up alone at 10:30, looking like he's witnessed his own funeral. I ordered coffee that tasted like it had been brewed during the Clinton administration and sat watching my phone not light up. It was fascinating in a morbid way, watching the minutes tick by and realizing she genuinely didn't care where I was or whether I was coming back. She was probably still at the party, still holding court, still pretending everything was perfect. But while she was cutting cake, I was cutting ties. I pulled out my laptop, connected to my phone's VPN, and got to work. First order of business, our joint credit card. The one we'd opened 3 years ago because Rachel insisted shared finances were healthy for marriage. I logged into the account and hit the freeze button with satisfaction, frozen, done. Every transaction she tried would be declined. Then I moved to my business account, the one with my consulting fees and salary deposits, and rerouted everything to a new account I'd opened last month at a completely different bank. I'd watched too many guys get cleaned out by wives who decided that what's yours is mine applied to bank accounts, but not to loyalty. Next came the locks. Our house was in my name. I bought it 2 years before meeting Rachel. When we married, I added her to the title because that's what you do when you love someone. But the mortgage, all me. Every payment, every repair, my money, my credit. So changing the locks wasn't a power play, it was a boundary. I called the 24-hour locksmith, arranged for them to come out first thing in the morning, cash payment, receipt under a different name. But the real masterpiece was the email. I sat in that diner booth and composed what I can only describe as art disguised as professional correspondence. Subject line: conflict of interest, urgent, short, professional, devastating. In the body, I kept it brief. Per company policy regarding conflicts of interest and potential ethics violations, I'm submitting formal disclosure of a personal relationship that may impact the ongoing Patterson marketing review. Attached, please find photographic evidence requiring immediate assessment by the ethics committee. Then I attached a photo. Not just any photo, the perfect photo. Someone had posted it to Instagram and tagged both Rachel and Kevin. There they were, smiling at each other like they were the only two people at the party. His hand on her waist, her hand on his arm, both holding champagne glasses, looking like a couple celebrating their anniversary instead of a boss and employee at a birthday party. The beauty of the photo was its ambiguity. It didn't show anything explicitly inappropriate, but it showed enough. The body language, the proximity, the casual closeness, and in the context of a company under legal review with me as a reviewing attorney and her as an employee who just publicly declared her boss her most special guest, that photo was a grenade. I addressed the email to 3 people: my supervisor, the head of legal review, and the ethics officer. Then I hovered over send for exactly 30 seconds, giving myself time to reconsider. But then I remembered her standing on that chair, raising her glass to Kevin, while I stood there like a ghost at my own wife's party. I clicked send with 0 regrets. It was nearly midnight. I paid my bill, left a generous tip, and headed to a hotel. Not fancy, just clean and quiet with a bed and a lock on the door. I checked in using my business credit card, the one Rachel didn't have access to, and lay on the bed fully clothed, staring at the ceiling. I waited for guilt or regret to hit me, but it never came. Instead, I felt relief. Pure, uncomplicated relief. 4 days. That's how long it took Rachel to notice I hadn't come home. 4 whole days of her posting Instagram stories from the office, sharing motivational quotes about boss babes, presumably basking in her party's afterglow while I sat in a hotel room eating room service. 4 days of absolute silence. No calls, no texts, no "Are you alive?" check-ins. The level of obliviousness required to not notice your husband has vanished was almost impressive. When she finally showed up at the house late Thursday afternoon, I'd taken the day off work and was sitting in the living room with bourbon that was probably too expensive for 3 in the afternoon. I'd spent the morning arranging things, setting the stage. I heard her before I saw her, that confident click-clack of heels on the walkway. She was humming, like she'd just won Employee of the Year. The door opened. She still had her old key. She breezed in like she owned the place, tossing her designer purse onto the couch. "Did you miss me?" she asked in that playful tone, like this was a minor misunderstanding, and we were about to kiss and make up. I looked at her over my glass, letting the silence stretch uncomfortably. "Sure," I finally said, my voice flat as concrete. Like I miss food poisoning, or jury duty, or that root canal without enough anesthesia. Her smile faltered. She opened her mouth to respond, but then she noticed something. Her key was still in her hand. She'd used it, turned it, felt it move in the lock, but something had felt wrong. "Mason," she said slowly, looking from the key to me. "Did you change the locks?" "Boundaries, remember?" I said, settling back. "You said they're healthy. You said we needed better boundaries." Those were your exact words during our last therapy session, which you skipped, by the way, so I took your advice. And honestly, you were right. Life-changing, even. She stood frozen in the entryway, looking like someone had told her gravity was optional. I could see the wheels turning, trying to figure out if this was some kind of test. I don't understand, she said, sounding genuinely uncertain for maybe the first time ever. Let me help you, I said, gesturing to the coffee table where a thick brown envelope sat with her name written across it. There's some reading material. Consider it a belated birthday gift. She moved toward the table like she was approaching a bomb, picked up the envelope with shaking hands. She opened it carefully, pulled out the papers, and scanned the first page, then the second, then back to the first. This is our prenup, she whispered. But it's different. These terms. That's the updated version, I explained. The one we signed a year ago when we refinanced the house, remember? You were so busy with that campaign launch. I told you we needed to sign some paperwork, and you said, and I quote, "I trust you with anything, babe. Just tell me where to sign." So I did. Your signatures are all over that thing. Very official, very legal, very much enforceable. She flipped through frantically. This says I'm not entitled to anything. The house, your retirement, your business assets, everything's protected. This isn't what we agreed to when we got married. You're right, I said, standing and walking closer. When we got married, we agreed to be faithful. We agreed to be partners. We agreed not to invite our bosses to birthday parties and call them our most special guests, while our spouses stand in the corner like decorative plants. But things changed, didn't they? Circumstances evolved. I adapted accordingly. You tricked me, she whispered, clutching the papers. You lied. I told you we needed to sign paperwork for the refinance, which was true. We also needed to sign an updated prenup, which I mentioned was included. You just didn't bother reading what you were signing because you were too busy, too distracted, too confident. I'd never do anything that wasn't in your best interest. You said you trusted me with anything, so I trusted that you wouldn't read the fine print. Rachel tried pretending nothing happened for about 18 hours. She spent that night in the guest room, which was generous of me to allow. She emerged the next morning acting like we'd just had a minor disagreement about dinner plans. She made coffee, did her makeup, got dressed in a power suit, and headed to work like everything was fine. I worked from home that day because I had a feeling things were about to get interesting. I set up in the home office with my laptop, fresh coffee, and anticipation. I'd sent that email 4 days ago, 4 days for it to circulate, for the ethics committee to convene, for people above my pay grade to start asking uncomfortable questions. The call came at 10:47. I know the exact time because I was watching the clock. I heard Rachel's phone ring, heard her answer in that professional voice. Rachel Collins speaking? Then I heard screaming, not her screaming, Kevin screaming. I couldn't make out exact words, but I didn't need to. The tone was unmistakable. That specific pitch of panic mixed with rage that people hit when their world is crumbling. What? Rachel's voice cut through the house, confusion turning to alarm. Grant, slow down, I can't. What do you mean? The company. What lawyer? More screaming from his end, loud enough I could hear it even though I wasn't on the call. Perfect timing. Absolutely perfect. My email had made its way through proper channels. The ethics committee had reviewed the photo, cross-referenced it with the ongoing Patterson investigation, and realized they had a major problem. One of their attorneys was married to an employee of a company under review, and that employee had publicly demonstrated a personal relationship with the CEO. They'd done what any responsible legal department would do. They'd escalated it, notified senior partners, pulled me off the review, and assigned fresh attorneys to the case. Attorneys with no personal connections, no reason to show bias. And those new attorneys had apparently found some very interesting things in Patterson Marketing's financial records. I heard footsteps, fast and frantic. The door burst open. Rachel stood there, phone clutched in her hand, face pale, eyes wide with panic. David, she said, voice shaking. Kevin's freaking out. He's saying something about lawyers and investigations and freezing accounts. He's saying this is my fault, that I... She stopped, swallowed hard. What did you do? I leaned back in my chair. Me? I didn't do anything illegal. I simply followed protocol. When I realized there might be a conflict of interest between my professional responsibilities and personal life, I disclosed it to the appropriate parties. That's in my job description. It's what ethical attorneys do. You reported us? Her voice cracked. You told them about Kevin and me? I reported a potential conflict of interest, I corrected. I submitted photographic evidence of a personal relationship between an employee of a company under review and that company's CEO. The fact that the employee is my wife is unfortunate, but irrelevant. The fact that you made that relationship very public, very obvious, and very questionable in terms of professional boundaries, well, that's on you. I just provided documentation. She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. You're ruining everything. Kevin's company, my job, my career. They're going to think I'm involved in whatever they're investigating. Were you? I asked, genuinely curious. Part of it? Did you know Kevin was cooking books or fudging numbers? I didn't know anything, she shouted. I'm in marketing. I don't have anything to do with financials. This is revenge, she said, realization dawning. Because of the party. Because I invited Kevin. I'm not jealous, I interrupted, standing up. Jealousy requires caring about something enough to want to keep it. What I am is done. Done being an afterthought in my own marriage. Done watching you prioritize your boss over your husband. This isn't revenge. This is consequences. There's a difference. Her phone rang again, Kevin's name flashing. She looked at it like it was a live grenade. She didn't answer. The phone kept ringing, insistent and angry. You need to fix this, Rachel whispered desperately. Please call them back. Tell them it was a mistake. No, I said simply, returning to my chair. I'm not fixing anything. This is the bed you made. Time to lie in it. Although, probably not in this house, since legally speaking, you don't live here anymore. You might want to start looking at apartments. Rachel's career crumbled faster than her gluten-free cake. Within 48 hours of Kevin's panic call, everything fell apart. Their biggest client, a tech startup, pulled their account completely. Just sent a terse email about reevaluating partnerships in light of recent developments and took their six-figure contract elsewhere. Then another client left. Then another. It was like rats abandoning a sinking ship, except the rats were Fortune 500 companies suddenly very concerned about their reputation and eager to distance themselves before scandal stuck to them too. HR got involved next. They flagged Rachel's profile for review, which is corporate speak for, we're building a file in case we need to fire you. They started asking questions about her relationship with Kevin, whether any promotions had been influenced by their personal connection, whether she'd ever received preferential treatment. Rachel came home ranting about how unfair it all was, how she was being persecuted for something she didn't do. It was just a party, David, she'd scream while I made dinner. People invite their bosses to parties all the time. Sure, I'd say, not looking up. People call their bosses most special guests all the time too. Totally normal. But the real nail in the coffin came courtesy of a blog called Corporate Confessions. Someone submitted the story of Rachel's birthday party to this gossip site for office workers. The article went live Tuesday morning with photos from Instagram, screenshots of Rachel's toast, a detailed timeline, and spectacular commentary about professional boundaries. The headline was a masterpiece. When birthdays become evidence, a marketing director's guide to ending your career in one Instagram post. By Tuesday afternoon, it had been shared 8,000 times across LinkedIn, Twitter, and every platform where bored office workers congregate. The article dissected every aspect of the party, from timing to guest list to the unfortunate optics of a married woman effusively praising her married boss while her husband stood in the background, looking miserable. LinkedIn erupted. Marketing professionals Rachel had never met were writing think pieces about boundary violations. HR representatives were sharing the article with commentary about what not to do. Her colleagues were conspicuously silent, quietly unfollowing her profile like she'd contracted something contagious. The memes started Wednesday. Someone created a most special guest template with Kevin's face photoshopped onto inappropriate scenarios. Another person made a corporate bingo card with toasting your boss at your birthday party as the free space. A creative soul edited the Titanic sinking scene with Rachel's face on the ship and professional reputation on the iceberg. Even Rachel's intern, a 22-year-old kid named Tyler, posted a GIF of Michael Scott from The Office with the caption, "When your boss's birthday invite turns into an HR investigation," and got 5,000 likes in 3 hours. Rachel tried to delete everything. Her Instagram post from the party disappeared. Her LinkedIn profile got scrubbed of photos, including Kevin. She tried to get Corporate Confessions to take down the article, threatening legal action, which just resulted in them posting an update with screenshots of her threatening emails and a new headline, "Marketing Director Threatens Blog, Proves She Still Doesn't Understand How the Internet Works." She called me during this digital purge, voice tight with panic. You ruined my life, she shouted. Everything I've worked for is gone. My reputation is destroyed. This is all your fault. I was at the gym on a treadmill, having the best workout I'd had in months. No, darling, I said casually. You did that with good lighting and bad decisions. I just provided documentation. The internet did the rest. That bingo card was particularly inspired. She screamed something about betrayal, how I'd violated her trust, how I was vindictive. Then she pivoted to threats. I'm going to sue you. My lawyer says I have grounds for intentional infliction of emotional distress. I stopped running, took a drink from my water bottle. Please do. Take me to court. Put everything on public record. We can depose Kevin, get all those midnight texts admitted as evidence, really air out every detail for a judge to examine. And when you lose, because you will lose, I'll bill you for my legal fees and emotional damages. Kevin showed up at my house the next day looking like he'd gone 12 rounds with reality. His eyes were bloodshot, tie crooked, expensive suit wrinkled. He was breathing like he'd just watched his stock portfolio combust. I heard the doorbell, checked the security camera, and almost choked on my coffee, seeing Kevin on my porch looking like a before photo in an anxiety medication ad. I took my time getting to the door, letting him ring twice more. When I finally opened it, I just stood there sipping coffee with polite curiosity. Where is she? He demanded, voice cracking. Where's Rachel? I need to talk to her now. He tried to push past me, but I blocked the doorway. Good morning, Kevin, I said pleasantly. Beautiful day, isn't it? Would you like coffee? I don't want your damn coffee, he shouted loud enough for the neighbors to hear. I want Rachel. Do you have any idea what you've done? The company is falling apart. We're hemorrhaging clients. The board is calling emergency meetings. Lawyers are crawling through every document. This is your fault. Did I? I asked. Because from where I'm standing, I just disclosed a conflict of interest. Everything after that was people doing their jobs. But you know what destroys companies? Fraud, financial misconduct, cooking books while your marketing director publicly celebrates you and creates a paper trail any first-year law student could follow. Rachel appeared then, wearing expensive athleisure like dressing well would fix reality. Kevin whirled on her. What did you make him do? They found major discrepancies. HR's in meltdown. Half the staff quit yesterday. Our biggest investor pulled out this morning. I didn't know anything, Rachel stammered. I'm in marketing. That's not what it looks like, Kevin shouted, hands shaking. It looks like the CEO and his marketing director were having an inappropriate relationship. When the company got investigated, her husband conveniently disclosed everything to protect himself while throwing us both under the bus. I cleared my throat. I didn't throw anyone under any bus. I informed my employer about a personal connection to a company under review, which is required. What happened after that is consequences of choices you both made. I'm not the villain. I'm just the guy who pulled the fire alarm when the building was already burning. Rachel turned to me, genuine horror in her expression. Please fix this. You know people. You have connections. I'm a lawyer, not a wizard, I said, amused. I can't make fraud investigations disappear, but even if I could, I wouldn't. I'm done enabling your stupid decisions. This is your mess. You figure out how to clean it up. Kevin took a step toward me, looking like he might try to hit me. You self-righteous fool, he hissed. You destroyed everything. I looked him dead in the eyes. No, Kevin, you destroyed everything because you couldn't keep your books clean or your hands professional. I just documented it, but please keep yelling. The neighbor has her phone out. This will make excellent content for the Neighborhood Watch Facebook group. Kevin stood there, cycling through emotions before landing on defeat. Everything I built is gone, he said hollowly. He turned to Rachel. This is your fault, your need for attention. I hope it was worth it. Then he left, stumbling to his luxury sedan and driving away. Rachel stood crying, mascara running. I wanted to clap. 5 stars, would watch again. Rachel showed up to work Monday morning in her best power suit, ready to fight. Her security badge didn't work. She swiped it once, got a red light, an angry beep. Swiped again, same result. The security guard, Marcus, handed her a sealed envelope without making eye contact. She stood there 30 seconds staring at it before opening it with shaking hands. Inside was one sentence. Termination of employment effective immediately. At the bottom, above the company seal and HR director's signature, was another name. Authorized by General Counsel David R. Harrison. She looked up from the paper, probably realizing her husband had just fired her using nothing but proper legal channels. She stared at my signature, like the letters might rearrange themselves into something less devastating. That night, Rachel came to my house and found me packing. We can fix this, she whispered. I handed her the divorce papers I'd been saving. You already fixed it for me. As I walked past her with my suitcase, the doorbell rang. A courier handed Rachel an official envelope. She opened it with trembling hands, then her knees gave out. Legal notice. Repayment of performance bonuses totaling $130,000 issued based on fraudulent company earnings. Due immediately. I stepped over her and walked to my car without looking back. No screaming, no drama, no confrontations, just peace. Because some people destroy you with rage and violence. I prefer invoices and silence.